My name is Don Paul Benjamin, and I'm a mystery writer. My mystery novel, The Road to Lavender, is the story of a deadly treasure hunt. Seeking the same prize are a troubled young woman, a handsome detective, and a scheming professor of archaeology, not to mention a group of murderous Russian mobsters. Hidden somewhere on the wild western slope of Colorado is the treasure, and nearly within the grasp of these seekers, but just at the last moment, a new player takes the field, and that new player is Diak Hodel. He's a ruthless German soldier of fortune with a taste for revenge and lethal skills as a bomb maker and a sharpshooter. Having eliminated most of the competition, he manages to capture a few of the last remaining treasure hunters, but his prisoners present him with an unexpected puzzle. Striving to think his puzzle through, he decides to take a midnight drive into the dark forest which surrounds the small rural town of Lavender, Colorado, and this is where an excerpt from the story picks up. Chapter 70, A Puzzle. Diak Hodel stood beside his secluded hideout and looked northward. In the moonlight, the dark outline of Grand Mesa stretched across the horizon, and he felt strangely drawn to the elevation. Dismissing the notion that the middle of the night might not be an ideal hour for sightseeing, he decided to take a drive. He wanted to see for himself if the rumors were true. The German had only been a week in western Colorado, but already he'd grown accustomed to the region's sprawling pastures, its vast fruit orchards, and bleak dirt hills. In contrast to these lowlands, it was said that Grand Mesa boasted an immense forest and many lakes. Diak sensed that a trip to the top and back would help him collect his thoughts. In the past, he'd relied on nature to calm his mind. Perhaps the lofty atmosphere of Grand Mesa would help him solve today's puzzle. Convinced that his prisoners were secure, he left them in the basement and fired up his SUV. Guided by his intuition, which defied logic but had never steered him wrong, he drove through the sleeping streets of Lavender to reach the highway. Near the foot of the mesa, his headlights picked out the glowing eyes of a roadside creature. He pressed on his brakes and watched a feral fox boldly cross the pavement, pausing to gaze at him through the SUV's bug-splattered windshield. Sighting the fox, his mother had once told him, could either serve as an omen of good luck or a dire warning of sudden misfortune. "Time will tell which," he said aloud, while the seemingly unfazed animal sauntered to the edge of the highway and vanished. The journey was not far, and soon the German was sitting high on the mesa, in the dark, on a narrow bridge. Below him trickled a lively stream which flowed onward to feed a distant lake. The German's eye followed the merging of water and darkness. With unceasing motion, the narrow current melded into the broad lake until the two became a single dark expanse which blended in turn into the shadowy border of towering pines. Save for the music of the stream, it was absolutely quiet. The stars were out in the forest, but the full moon, though past its zenith, still governed the midnight sky. Its stark reflection etched a ribbon of light upon the lake's placid surface, and formed a glistening line which seemed to bisect the dark water. "This," he said as he gestured toward one side of the divided water, "or that," he added as he pointed to the other. "This is the very image of my puzzle." The night world of Grand Mesa seemed crystal clear and surprisingly cold for July. Glad for his jacket, Diak sat cross-legged on the bridge, listening to the passing stream. The water seemed to bear away his troubles, and his thinking, so tangled in the maze of the present dilemma, began to stray into his well-remembered past. He measured his breathing, and his mind relaxed as he recalled the stories his mother had once told of her childhood days spent roaming the woods. Years ago, in the closing months of World War II, on a night such as this, his mother and other Wolfskinder children would have been sleeping beneath the stars in a distant European forest, mourning their murdered families and huddling together to keep warm. "Weren't you frightened?" the boy Diak had asked his mother. "Of course," she'd answered, as she tucked him in, "but not in the way you think. The woods did not frighten us. Even the animals did not frighten us. The men with guns, this is what we feared. Dyax sighed and looked aloft at the distant stars. Steeped in tales of his mother's misfortune, he'd vowed never to be reduced as she had been to a target. When she died, he hardened his heart and turned his mother's nightmare on its head. His solution was simple. To escape the ranks of the hunted, he became the hunter. This is an excerpt from my upcoming mystery novel, The Road to Lavender, which will be available in Colorado stores and through Amazon.com on July 24th of this year. On that date, my book launch takes place from 7 to 9 p.m. at the Grand Mesa Arts and Events Center in downtown Cedar Ridge. The public is invited. Details are on my webpage, benjaminauthor.com.